It had to happen, guys. We've been talking about this for several weeks now, and I just here's the deal with this move that we saw below $100,000. It's exactly what we were talking about on this channel, exactly what I called for. A move down to the 50-week moving average, the 50-week EMA, a wick below that, perhaps under $100,000. That's how it played itself out. And it was inevitable. Even when we got up to 116, we got up to my upper line in the sand. That was my mindset. I was not bullish. I was not anywhere near excited at that point. I would have been excited with another $2,000 move after that. But even at that time, I was like, no, it's not. It's not time. And then as we were going down, it's like, okay, here's my thing with technical analysis. I'm not married to technical analysis, but the thing that I try to preach to you over and over again is you've got to figure out where the traders are going to get in. And they were not going to get in at $107,000 for Bitcoin. They weren't going to get in at $105,000. They were going to wait. They were going to wait and wait and wait. And then they were going to get in around either the 50-week SMA or the 50-week EMA. Now, I did mention I had a long set for the 50-week simple moving average at 103, and then I canceled that, and I opened a long at the 50-week EMA at 101. And yeah, was I sweating it out a little bit yesterday or 2 days ago, excuse me, when Bitcoin went to 98 and change? I was sweating a little bit, but the reason why I was sweating actually was because my stop loss was in the 97,000 area. But no, I was really confident that we were going to end up holding these moving averages at least today, at least this week. I think we are going to have weekly close above the 50-week SMA, and then we will see where we go for next week. I am not calling bottom. But if that's not the bottom, then we're done for a while. We're done for months, not for a year. We're not done for a year. We're not done until October 2026. We're done for some months, okay? And it's okay. And I actually want to paint a picture for you later in this video of why not only would that be okay, but at the end of the pain is going to be, I'm not exaggerating, it's going to be your best opportunity within this 4-year window between halvings to make money off of altcoins. Because what's going to happen with altcoin sentiment, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be beautiful because people are going to give up entirely on altcoins when they should not give up just yet. All right, so let's talk about Bitcoin short term. And then we'll take a look at some other things just to give some perspective. I do believe that we are going to hit new all-time highs. I believe that that's probably not going to happen in 2025. It could. I believe it will happen in 2026. I believe it can happen in the first quarter of 2026. I believe it's much more likely to happen as 2026 goes on. And again, reminder, whatever Bitcoin peaks at for 2025, I believe that that's not going to be anywhere near the peak for this cycle, but it's actually going to go much higher than that between now and the next halving. The all-time high, I'm preaching this again, the all-time high for this cycle is closer to the next halving than the previous one. I am fully convinced of that. Okay, so let's zoom in on the daily real quick, the daily chart. Now, we have a couple things. We still have my 2 lines in the sand. Do you remember my 2 lines in the sand? Line number 1, the 50-week moving average. 50-week EMA, SMA, you could call that the 50-week moving average band. And number 2, line in the sand, is where this yellow circle is. Now, I have a new fib chart drawn. I'm going to explain that in a second. But this yellow circle is the 618 to the 702 retrace from the August peak to, let me just redraw this real quick, to that bottom where we got down to 103. That is still my line in the sand. All right, you can see we got right up to the 618 retrace. That's why I was not excited when we got up to that level, because I was thinking, nope, we got to break through, and we got rejected right there. That's what the traders were looking for. That's why you do technical analysis. All right, so now what's my new fib chart here? This new fib chart is from that 116 and change area down to where we got down 2 days ago, 98 and change. And then now I'm paying attention. This long that I opened along at 101. I'm paying attention to where I am going to close that long. That doesn't mean that I'm now going to be bearish. No, but if it's over, over for a little bit, not for a year, but if it's over, then this is the area where the bears are going to make an aggressive move. 618 retrace from this swing high to swing low. That is $109,800. So we're not quite going to get to 110, in my opinion, on this move up. Now, I'll probably get more conservative at this trend line here. You could just see, pretty simple trend line. Now that we have more than 3 touches on that trend line, yes, people are going to be traders, are going to be paying attention to that and looking for an opportunity to short it. So as the days go on, it may be that, maybe we, the trend line's going down. So Saturday, that would be 108.2, and Sunday would be 107.5. So the longer it takes to get up to the trend line, the less likely actually it would be that we would get to that 618 retrace. But I think we're going to get there, and I think it's going to be a wick. All right. There will be a rejection around $110,000. If we get to 110, it's going to get rejected really hard. Just don't shoot the messenger. That's what's going to happen. The thing that I really want to know about what happens after that is, do we put in a higher low or a lower low? If we put in a higher low, fantastic. Then that next break of this trend line, we're going to put in hopefully a higher high after that, and we'll climb this wall of disbelief and break through that top line in the sand, and then we're good to go. But there's a lot of variables, a lot of questions that we need to see what happens. Can the bulls outfight the bears? And that's going to be an incredibly difficult challenge because of the fact of just where we are in the cycle, the year after the halving, but fourth quarter of the year after the halving. I know that there's going to be a lot of a desire to make money to the downside, pushing the price down. So if the bulls can break through that, the bears are going to get annihilated. And that's going to be a massive short squeeze. And if and when you see that short squeeze, at that moment, here's the response. Game on. Game on, new all-time highs. But just be prepared, all right? It's going to be a battle. Now, what does that mean about altcoins? That means you do not touch altcoins right now. I'm sorry. Whatever this climb looks like, if we are to put in a new all-time high, whatever that climb looks like, I have no hope for altcoins. I have none. Now, sure, some random altcoin. We saw ICP, we saw Zcash, Dash. There may be some pretty dramatic spikes in some of these altcoins, but picking the right one is like shooting fish. No, it's not shooting fish in a barrel. It's finding a needle in a haystack. Excuse me. Yeah, and if you're gonna dance that dance, just buy something that's an OG, older than this cycle, and something with good tokenomics. So I hope I've laid that out well. I can't sit here and declare to you that it's not over, but I can't, the 2 lines in the sand have been respected still. And as long as we're in between those 2 lines in the sand, I'm going to be very open-minded about what's to come next, especially because the market makers, man, if we're all thinking, all right, bear market, yeah, they might do some things to. Where's the pain gonna be? All right, now bear case. We have from Brett on X. I love his stuff, man, and he's been talking about this this front running of MicroStrategy stock. So in August, I made a video showing that Bitcoin would soon test and break the 50-week moving average, following the MicroStrategy front run. So he does believe that it's over. All right. That became true yesterday. Well, it became true, but all right, Brett, you're a little bit ahead of yourself. I mean, there's no difference so far between April 7th of 2025 and August 5th of 2024. So no. But okay. Yeah, that became true yesterday, right? 2 days ago from the time you're watching this. MSTR has provided insights on Bitcoin's price action since late 2024. If we look at the last cycle, the purple arrows indicate where MSTR was when Bitcoin got its first clean weekly close below the 50-week moving average. In 2021, MicroStrategy was flirting with the second green band and had 5 weekly closes below the 50-week moving average. Bitcoin soon followed suit. Will history repeat? History doesn't necessarily need to repeat, but this is a compelling argument to say, yeah, it's over. All right, and that doesn't mean that that's absolutely going to happen. Absolutely not. No, but MicroStrategy has been about 5 weeks ahead of Bitcoin in the breaking of the 50-week moving average. MicroStrategy peaked well before Bitcoin peaked. MicroStrategy peaked in December of 2024. And Bitcoin peaked so far in October of 2025. So the peak is well before, but this is what happened in 2021. You can see it on the chart here. MicroStrategy broke the 50-week moving average, and then several weeks later, Bitcoin did the same thing. It took a while. So just keep that in mind. All right, MicroStrategy, is that a leading indicator of where Bitcoin's going to go? Maybe, maybe not. There's a lot more different variables in place right now, including everything that I've talked about with liquidity being on the upswing, the business cycle being on the upswing, all of that. Okay. From Zhao Wedson, one of my favorites here. I believe that now, so a little bit more bullish here. But risk to reward, more so favoring risk to reward. I believe that now around 100 to 101K is the last real opportunity for those thinking about buying and going long, because Bitcoin is either in the spring phase of an accumulation or an ABC correction, the ending of an ABC correction. I'm adding, those are my 2 cents. Where were we? Or the final phase of a redistribution. While the first scenario is highly bullish, the second one would likely mark the end of this cycle. That's why I'm taking a risk of going long here with proper stop loss. Yes, this is how I trade using alpha metrics, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is either the spring on a reaccumulation, which means it's a perfect time to open a long or to buy Bitcoin, or it's the final phase of a distribution and we're gonna go lower, which means that we go any bit lower than that is an invalidation of this reaccumulation, and it's time to sell your bags. And I am being serious about, a lot of you have this mindset. It is the wrong mindset to have, I am telling you. Well, I can't sell because I'm down. No, you sell because if it's time to sell and we're in a situation like this and we lose support, this is our last hope. You sell because it can go down way, way lower than what you think, and it may never come back. All right, so you do you, man. I sell losing positions all the time. That's why I win. Do you want to win? Then sell your losers. But I don't even know if I want to talk about this. Bitcoin halving tracker, current 106, etc. That was a couple days ago. 2012 scaled 2.9 million. 2016 scale 1.60 million. 1.06 million, excuse me. 2020 scale 399,000. And here we are now. I don't even know why I was bringing that up. But let's talk about the exciting part. I know it's not going to be exciting to some of you. The exciting part of if it's over, okay? And I watched my second ever Benjamin Cohen video. I'm going to admit that. Not my second ever, my second Benjamin Cohen video of 2025. Look it up on YouTube. Why has alt season not happened yet? All right, and the reason why that he explains, quantitative tightening. I've always been very hesitant to use the word alt season. Maybe that word has slipped out of my mouth. I was hopeful for an altcoin moment. I'm still hopeful for an altcoin moment short term. But alt season, why has it not happened? It's essentially because of quantitative tightening. And he compares, what he does in that video that's really interesting, which I've seen him do this before, is he compares that to 2019. So 2019, we have to go all the way back here. Why 2019? Because that was during a time of quantitative tightening. You see this big move on Bitcoin. That's almost a 5x on Bitcoin. All right, you know what happened with altcoins during the same time? Nothing, very little. Very little. If you look at the total altcoin market cap, it barely got up to 236 retrace, the lowest possible retrace that most fib charts have, and yet Bitcoin got up to a 702 retrace. So Bitcoin dominated altcoins during that big run up for Bitcoin, and here we are. We've been in a phase of quantitative tightening. That was a much shorter phase of quantitative tightening, but we saw the same thing. We saw Bitcoin dominate altcoins, and we've seen a lot of people get to a point of despair on altcoins. So here's what's going to happen if it's over with altcoins, with altcoin sentiment, is that a large majority of people are going to believe that altcoins are done forever, which please inject that in my veins. A large majority of people are going to believe that altcoins are done forever, which I'm just telling you right now, the moment we see more favorable market conditions, those altcoins are going to be just there. It's going to be like throw a dart at a dartboard season. It's going to be a season where, yes, sentiment is going to be in the gutter. You're not going to want to buy altcoins, but if you do, you are going to make 100x. All right, maybe not 100x, 20x, 50x, 100x. You are the amount of money that you are going to make, if you are able to follow through on that, is going to be off the charts insane. Because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, when market conditions are more favorable to altcoins just absolutely ripping, after the masses have given up on altcoins, it's going to be like, where did this come from? What's going on? And I'm not rooting for that necessarily. I'd love to just see Bitcoin hit a new all-time high, Ethereum hit a new all-time high, that massive mega rotation happen, and alt season happen soon. But even with Bitcoin hitting a new all-time high, and I'm sorry to say this, even in the first quarter of 2025, let's say Bitcoin gets to 130, 140, 150 in the first quarter of 2026. The hopes, those 20x, 50x hopes for altcoins, it's still not going to happen. Yes, quantitative tightening ends on December 1st. But what I suspect is going to happen is that, there'll be some variations with Bitcoin dominance, Bitcoin ETH dominance, but it's just mostly just going to climb with Bitcoin. But when does the outperformance happen? It happens sometime down the road, maybe end of 2026, when altcoins, where altcoins will just obliterate Bitcoin. Maybe even longer than that. Sometimes my time frame as I look out into the horizon, it takes a little bit longer. So yes, I am I'm kind of waving the white flag on altcoins. I'm waving the white flag on altcoins doing what everyone else has been telling you it was going to do. I am just straight up, it's not happening. Not for the next 6 months at least. But then, whether 126 was the peak for 2025, or whether we're going to go higher with Bitcoin and then roll over, at some point, and I think it's near enough that you should get excited. Altcoins, I am going to be a moon boy. You know how much I wanted to be a moon boy this entire time? Oh my goodness. You know how many more followers and subscribers I would have right now if I was able to be a moon boy this entire time, but the market would not let me be a moon boy? I am telling you, and it's not far off. A year is not far off. It might be less than a year. I am going to be an absolute moon boy, and people are going to hate me for it. I hope you hear that. People hated my subdued outlook for the last 2 years. And they are equally going to hate my moon boy sentiment when that time comes, which is why I'm not giving up ever on HeHe. I know the HeHe price sucks right now. There's nothing I can do about it. But man, that will 100x. Solnick. I can't wait. But it's not... Q1. I said it wasn't happening for Q4 2025, excuse me. I said that in a recent video. Alt season, mega alt season, not happening. It's not, now I'm telling you it's not happening for Q1 of 2026 either. I'm sorry. If you can accept that and then prepare for when it will happen, you're gonna make a killing. All right. So anyway, that's all I have for today. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your week, and I will most certainly be seeing you in another video. Peace.